Hi, my name's Andy Mills from Route 1. I'm here to tell you a little bit about buying a snowboard, your setup from beginner, intermediate and expert. If you're ready, let's get started. Okay, now we're back in the warm. We're going to run you through boards, bindings, boots, setup, what's hot and what's not in snowboarding. Make sure you get the right board and bindings and boots to take you away on your ideal holiday. Boards. We've come outside now into the snow where the boards feel at home. We're going to teach you a little bit about different styles of board for different styles of riding. We're going to show you a little bit about the boards and demonstrate what I'm on about basically. Okay, so now we're going to show you through a board. This one we've got here is a K2 Park Star. Basically around the board you've got your base, runs over the snow, you've got your edges which help you hold and carve in the snow, your top sheet with the graphics that look great where your bindings bolt onto. Okay, now we've come into store, we're going to run you through a few of the different styles of boards that are available to you. Okay, so starting off, you've got a directional snowboard. Now that means that the waist, the middle bit of the board, is set further back, the bindings are set further back, which consequently gives you a longer nose on the board. So that means that that is definitely the front, and that is definitely the back of the board. Now this will help you initiate your first turns on the slopes, so it's easier to dig your edges in. And it will give you a lot more float through softer snow and powder. It's a great board to learn on this. Your progression will fly on this kind of board. Next up, we've got a twin board. It's a board like this. Now this is a more freestyle specific kind of snowboard. So the waist on this board is very much in the centre. So if you were to cut the board down the centre there, it's exactly the same from the nose to the tail. So all the core, everything, so when you're riding it switch or regular, whichever way around you are, the board will feel and perform exactly the same. In the middle, we've got what's called a directional twin. Now this is where you get the best of both worlds. You get a directional shape, so the waist is set back, your bindings are set back, giving you the bigger nose. But the core, the actual internals of the board, are the same as the twin. So you've got the same flex on the nose, the same flex on the tail, equal pop in the board. So if you do ride switch, come out of a trick switch, it will perform roughly the same. It'll be a little bit different because of the shape, but it's still got that core that will give you the pop and the stability that the twin would. Okay, so now we've had a look at the different styles of board that are available to you. Let's have a quick chat about sizing. Sizing a snowboard is very important because it can mean the difference between a good ride and a really terrible ride. A good day on the hill and a really rubbish day on the hill. So the biggest thing to consider when choosing your size of board is your weight. The bigger person you are, the bigger board you'll need. The smaller you are, the smaller board you can get away with. Now, for example, I weigh 12 stone. Depending on what I'm riding, I'll ride a different board. So if I'm riding freestyle, I'll pick a board like this, and I'll ride anything from a 156 to a 158. If I'm riding off-piste and powder, I'll ride anything from a 160 to a 162. Okay, now we've had a look at a couple of boards. You can kind of get a picture in your head of what you're after and what you're looking for, whether it be all-mountain directional, a twin park board, or an intermediate, between the two, directional twin. Let's go inside, let's have a look at some bindings and get in the warm. Bindings. Okay, so let's have a look at what a binding actually is. At the bottom you've got your base plate. This is what actually bolts onto the snowboard. You've got your toe strap, your heel strap and your high back. Straps are what keep your foot onto the binding, keep you nice and secure, and the high back is there to give you more support on your heel edge for when you're riding. This is the most common style of binding you'll find on the market. Simple ratchet straps. It's the simplest, the easiest to use and the most adjustable. Boots. So what are boots actually made of? Well, two things. You've got the nice tough outer to keep your foot protected from the snow. Nice and tough, doesn't let the cold or the water in. And you've got the inner, which is nice and soft to make sure you get a really good fit inside the boot. Now the most important thing to think about when choosing a pair of boots is the fit. It's best to try on as many different styles of boots as you can, or get some advice from somebody who knows what they're on about. Every boot manufacturer will have a slightly different fit, and your foot has to fit in that boot the best. Don't worry about looks so much, always go for the fit. The most important key points are heel hold. You don't want your heel moving around in the boot so much because you won't be able to put the pressure onto the board and your riding will suffer. And your toes. Don't get them compressed in there. Make sure you've got a little bit of room to move around and they're not squashed at all. Okay, so now let's run you through how to set your board up. And the first thing and the most important thing to think about is whether you're a goofy or a regular rider. Okay, so the easiest way to work this out is to push somebody. Okay, so Ben fell there after I pushed him with his right foot out first, which means Ben is a goofy rider. If he was to land with his left foot forward, Ben would be a regular rider. Simples. Okay, so in placing your bindings on the board and arranging your setup, you've got your directions, so you know which is your nose and your tail. The only other two things you have to think about is the width you want to put your bindings at, whether they're set further back or forward, and the angle of your feet. So your width, what you want to do is place your board on the floor, stand over it, and have your feet a little bit wider than your shoulders, which will make you bend your knees when you're riding, get you in that squat position for the best riding. So when choosing the angles of your bindings, it's best to think about what kind of riding you're going to be doing. So if you bought, say, a directional board, then you might want to have your front foot a little bit more angled out than your back foot. This will just mean that it will turn your shoulder around when you're riding, you'll be going in one direction, and it'll make your riding a lot easier and easier to initiate that first turn with the nose of your board. If you're riding a more park setup, like I do, my bindings are very much centred, and my angles are exactly the same, plus 15, minus 15, so that when I'm riding regular, goofy, switch or regular, the board is exactly the same, facing both directions. So when I go that way, it's exactly the same as when I go that way. So when bolting your bindings onto the board, just do them up with a hand screwdriver. That will be adequate. There's 4 bolts or 3 bolts and some of them that will hold the binding onto the board. That's an adequate stiffness. Just make sure you've got your angles set as you like them, and you're ready to go. Right then guys, I hope we've given you a good insight into buying your first snowboard or buying any snowboard. Have fun out there, and I'll see you on the piste.